Brakathe Yahweh.
Brakathe Yahweh.
Brakathe Yahweh Shai.
Brakathe Yahweh Shai.
Brakathe Yahweh.
Brakathe Yahweh.
Brakathe Yahweh Shai.
Brakathe Yahweh Shai.
Brakathe Yahweh.
Brakathe Yahweh.
Brakathe Yahweh Shai.
Brakathe Yahweh Shai.
Salaki Bahashim.
Bahashim.
Rakah.
Rakah.
Kodash.
Kodash.
Double honors to the apostles and those of great millstone which are well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. You brothers sincerely do this in truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shimon, to my right.
You're one of them.
And this week's lesson is going to be Daniel's, the 8th chapter. As you see, we've been going through like certain books of Daniel's 2nd chapter. And Lord willing, we have if the Spirit allows, we have a big history lesson this Wednesday in the group live show. You brothers tune in if you can. We're going to go through Daniel's 11th chapter. You know? So without further ado, let's go.
Right. This is Daniel's chapter 8, verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me.
Yes, now we got to make something known about, for brothers that's just coming in or still new in the faith. Belshazzar, if you look him up in the secular history, technically was never the king of Babylon, all right? If you're a governor, a vice president, or whatever type of ruler, the Hebrew word malak could be used. So what he technically was a king regent. His father, Nabonidus, was actually king of Babylon when you look it up in the secular history, but he left to Haran to serve his God and left his son, Belshazzar, in place as king regent. All right, so technically when you look up Belshazzar, you might be like, wait, this guy never existed? No, he existed, but the reason he wasn't king was because his father was king. Hence, he made Daniel 3rd in the kingdom because he was 2nd and his father was 1st.
It says, after that which appeared unto me at the first, and I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes.
I want to make a statement too. Daniel, he was when Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem. Right? Not utterly destroyed it, but besieged it and put a puppet king in there, Zedekiah. What he did was he took out the nobles. I'm talking about before Zedekiah rebelled and he put Jerusalem to waste. He put a puppet king in there, Zedekiah, and took all the nobles out of the land of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? The wise men, all right? The noble families. Daniel was of that ilk. And the 3 holy children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I believe their Hebrew name, I can only remember one, was Hazariah, and you brothers can look up the rest. And Daniel exceeded in his kingdom, okay, through his wisdom. Now, Nebuchadnezzar, got lifted up, got proud, he'd been through all different types of trials and tribulation, but ultimately, Daniel was a good advisor to him. You know what I'm saying? So every particular kingdom that the Israelites were in, they always rose to the top and magnified that kingdom and been in great offices, just like you see today. You got Israelites in top offices today. It was the same thing back then.
It says, then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns.
Now, this ram right here is the Medo-Persian Empire, okay? That's the beast. Now, one horn represents the Persian Empire, and one represents the Median Empire. Go ahead.
It says, and 2 horns were on high. and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other.
The Persians ultimately became higher than the Medes, okay? Because what? The Babylonians and the Medes took down the Assyrian Empire, right? But ultimately, the Median Empire succeeded the Babylonian Empire while the Persians were still there. But ultimately, King Cyrus would overcome the Median Empire. The last king of Media was, of course, Astyages, which was King Cyrus's grandfather on his mother's side.
So it says, but one was higher than the other, the higher came up last.
And the higher came up last, because that's what I was just saying. The Medians were dominating first, and then the Persians came up. You know what I'm saying? One thing I want to mention about Astyages, go to Bel and the Dragon, the 1st chapter, the 1st verse. Because there's a certain debate about who Darius the Mede was, right? before you read it, there's certain debate about who Darius the Mede was, right? Because after Cyaxares and Nabopolassar was the two kings that took the Assyrian Empire, right? Now Cyaxares had a son, okay, Astyages. Now certain historians say that Astyages had another son named Cyaxares II, which is Darius the Mede in the Bible. Certain people say he didn't have a son, such as Herodotus, which was a certain historian, right? The one we're going to go with is we're going to go based on the Bible. We don't believe this guy had a son, because the Bible didn't say he had a son. All right, so we believe his Astyages was Darius the Mede, because he only reigned about a few years. He was up in age. You know what I'm saying? Because he went to war against Cyrus, and Cyrus didn't utterly destroy him. Cyrus actually treated him good, man. So the reason you can't find Darius the Mede, because first of all, Darius is just a title. All right, it's a Latin word, okay, which I believe it means benefactor. But read read the Bell and Dragon, chapter 1, verse 1.
All right, this is Bell and the Dragon, 1 and 1. And King, how you say that again? Astyages was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom.
Boom, you know what I'm saying? So Herodotus made it clear that that particular king didn't have any sons. Matter of fact, he had a vision. He had two visions that his son will dominate the world, man. And he feared that shit. He wanted his kingdom he wanted to just be the sole ruler. So he gave his daughter to Cambyses, right? Which was Cyrus's father. And when they got pregnant, because Cambyses was like a pacifist a bit, when they had a son, Cyrus, he wanted Cyrus to be slain. You know what I'm saying? So he had one of his generals take Cyrus to go kill him, but the general didn't kill him. He didn't want to kill noble blood. He gave it to a shepherd, and the shepherd ended up raising Cyrus. And about 12 years old, when Astyages found this out, he was fucking pissed off. But he didn't kill Cyrus. What he did to the general was this: he had the general eat his own son. Unknowingly, of course, eat his own son, man. Which that would later come back to bite him in the ass. All right, but even in that, Cyrus had a tendency to show mercy, man. But the reason Cyrus wasn't slain was because when you read Isaiah 45 and 1. He was the anointed of the Heavenly Father, man. He had a purpose. He had a role to play, man. And that prophecy was written 150 years before he even stepped on the scene. Just like how we read about Alexander. Mm-hmm. We're gonna read about him. We're gonna bring out more information. That guess what? He saw the prophecy about himself, man. Just like Cyrus saw the prophecy about himself. Okay, so Darius the Mede, what we're gonna go with based on the scriptures, that was Astyages, all right, which was the grandfather on his mom's side of King Cyrus.
Go back to Daniel?
Yes.
This is back in Daniel 8 and 4. And I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him.
Right, so the Persian Empire, they conquered the west of Babylon, Syria, Asia, and parts of Greece, all right? Well, they try to get to parts of Greece. And to the north, they have Iberia, Albania, Armenia, Scythia, all right, Caspian Sea, and to the south you had Arabia, Ethiopia, Egypt, and India. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the scriptures tell you that they had 127 provinces, right? Which that meant 127 people, 127 like what you would call states today. When you go to secular history, they say 127 places where the Hebrews dwelt, where Jews dwelt. You know what I'm saying? Because they had 30 satraps or 30 governors, but the kingdom of the Persians was well larger than the landmass of America, man, and they ran that shit smooth. When you look how they ran it, they ran that shit smooth, man.
So it says, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great.
Yep, and Cyrus, well, is he not called Cyrus the Great?
Right. It says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth.
Now that he-goat is the Grecians, okay? Go ahead.
It says, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
That notable horn is Alexander the Great. Now it said, touch not the ground, meaning they were moving fucking swift, man. All right? they were moving swift. Like, man, the Greeks was putting in work, man. And one thing that was known about Alexander's battles was he was always outnumbered. A lot of historians say, like, he was a great general, but his luck was, like, crazy. But there's no such thing as luck. The Most High was with him, too. When Alexander went, according to the Josephus, right? When Alexander went to Jerusalem, right? And the elder Yahweh was bringing out that the prophets met him. You know, Josephus said it was a priest, but anyway, you just say men of the Lord met him, right? Because this guy was conquering, you know what I'm saying, dominating people and shit. So Jerusalem was like fucking nervous. But brothers prayed, you know what I'm saying? And according to the Josephus, when he came, you know, the Lord pretty much said, listen, high priest dressed in your glorious garments and everybody else dressed in white. And when Alexander saw that, he alone came up and bowed to the brother. He bowed to the priest, and his men were like, what the fuck are you doing? He said, I'm not bound to this man, I'm bound to their power. You know what I'm saying? Because I saw these guys in a dream before I even fucking started conquering the East. Now, it's up to you if you want to believe that. Personally, I do believe it, because I know the Most High works on men in dreams. And also, a lot of our history was passed on orally. So even though that account by Josephus might not be in the scriptures, we have a tendency to pass on our history orally. Let's prove that. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 8.
All right. 3 and 8.
Mm-hmm. Just to prove a point.
All right. This is 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 8. It says, likewise must the deacons, likewise must the deacons be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy lucre, holding the mystery of the faith in a pure conscience. Keep reading.
Go to 2 Timothy 3 and 8.
All right. 2 Timothy 3 and 8. It says, now as Jannes and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth.
Yeah, so who's Jannes and Jambres? Those are the magicians mentioned in the book of Exodus. Now, their names is nowhere in the Old Testament, but the Apostle Paul knew it. What does that tell you? We were passing that history down orally. We was always speaking about Jannes and Jambres and shit, but no brother was really writing about it. Fast forward now, Paul knew their names, man. So that's my point. Like, you know, there's certain things. Josephus goes off here and there. There's certain things he just says word of mouth, but that's something I could see. I could see the same way the prophets told King Cyrus, like, look, this is you. They sat him down and showed him Daniel's 8th chapter, because Daniel's 8th chapter was written 200 years before Alexander was even on the scene. Brothers like, yo, listen, this is you. All right? The same way we out here teaching now, Job 9:24 is talking about the Rothschilds. You know what I'm saying? Except back then, these guys hearkened. The Rothschilds ain't hearkening now. But there's nothing new under the sun. So guys like King Cyrus, Alexander, they was in the Bibles, and brothers showed it to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is you. And, you know, so Alexander said, yo, so what am I supposed to do? He said, listen, man. Brother said, listen. The priest said, do the will of the Lord, do what you have to do, whatever, right? But just let us keep our law, statutes, and commandments. And he did that, man. He acknowledged our power.
This is back in Daniel 8 and 6. It says, and he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power.
Yes, because Darius the First, talking about the Persian, aka Darius the Great, he started the first Greek-Persian war. Then Xerxes the First, the husband of Esther and the guy in the movie 300, he started the second. And Alexander and Darius III had the third Persian War, which there were 3 notable battles. All right, but it was the last battle, the battle of starts with a G, I want to say Guatemala, where Alexander defeated Darius, man. And they said he had about 40,000, and they had over 150,000, man. So Darius came there with his whole nobles, all his family, expecting to see a slaughter. But the Lord was with Darius. The Lord was with Alexander, man. I believe brothers have brought out there's certain paintings with this dude Alexander at battle, and you can see chariots and shit like hovering above him, man. dictating about helping this guy win. So the Most High was with that dude, man.
Can I get a precept real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Based on what you were saying, this is
Real quick, let me make one more statement.
Right.
If Alexander didn't win and Hellenize the world, then the New Testament wouldn't be written in Greek, because what he did was he made one language, just like how everybody speak English. Imagine a general going around and teaching everybody English. Great. Now all the Jews that are scattered speak English. It was like that. The Greek tongue was like that known tongue. You know what I'm saying? But,
this is Psalms 9 and 17. It says, well, I'm going to start at 16. It says, the Lord is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared into the work of his own hands. So meaning, you know, the Most High, Yahweh, he's known by the judgments that he executes. And just like when you go back to the ancient world with the flood, you know, everybody knew about the power of Israel. They used to call him Al-Shaddai, God Almighty, which is a terrible demon-like power. You know, they used to call him a demon-like power because he flooded the whole earth and just killed everything. You know, so every nation on the earth, they used to know our power, the Most High, Yahweh, and his son, Yahweh Shai. But this is the next verse. It says, well, also it says, the wicked is snared into the work of his own hands, meaning, you know, the wicked starts with the so-called white man. And, you know, you see what they doing on the earth today. They don't reverence the Most High, the God of the Bible. They worshiping Satan. You know, these Illuminati, they worship Satan on the left-hand side. You know, so they forgot about the Most High. Like, basically, they got in prideful to think that they the ones that came up into power. When just like the priest was going into, you know, these ancient kings, they used to reverence the Most High because they used to know, like, your power set us up to rule, you know, because we used to show them out of the scriptures. But the white man, he's prideful. He's the most proud, according to Jeremiah, I think it's the 49th chapter. It says, verse 17, Psalms 9 and 17, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget the Most High. So that's what the so-called white man did with his pride. You know, he forgot that the Most High is the one that rules in the kingdom of men. You know, and that's what happened to all these nations once they, you know, turned away and started worshiping idols and stuff. Even though the Most High was not given to them to worship, but they still supposed to reverence the Most High. You know, but, you know, they start worshiping idols, and then the Most High just destroyed them. And that's what's going to happen to America. That's why America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. You know, because this country is just wicked. It's rebelling against the Most High. But meanwhile, he's the one that established this place. That's the point.
Well, get the precept in Amos 4. But he builds up the mountains.
Okay.
Can you break that down?
This is Amos 4 and 13. It says, for lo, he that formeth the mountains and createth the wind, and the mountains represents different governments. So the Most High, he created America, and he created Russia, North Korea, China, all these governments that are on the earth. Mountain representing a big government. You know, he created all of that. You know, in the spirit world, it's just his will. You know, he spoke it, and that's what happened on the earth. It says,
when these guys get together with their G8 meeting, they call it a summit meeting, which the summit is the top of the mountain, and they're the top of the government.
Yep. It says, and createth the wind, and declareth unto man what is his thought. And he only declared his thought unto Israelite men. You know, and then maybe Israelite men interpreted it for other kings like Nebuchadnezzar, you know, going back to the Pharaoh.
Well, read that part again.
It says, and declareth unto man what is his thought.
Yeah, so whatever you think, the Most High put that thought in your mind. So whatever strategy that Alexander came up with, such as building a causeway to besieging Tyre, all right, that famous thing that he did at the Sardian Rock, the Most High put that genius in his mind, that particular wisdom, to overcome the battle.
And that links up with Proverbs 21 and 1. It tells you the heart of the king is in the hands of the Most High.
You got it if you want.
I'll get it real quick.
I don't have no service, but I believe that was, the battle starts with a G.
This is Proverbs 21 and 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Yeah, so that links up with Amos 4 and 13. It says, he declareth unto man what is his thought. Because the preparations of man is with the Most High. You know, it says, that maketh the morning darkness and treadeth upon the high places of the earth. The Lord, the Yahweh of hosts is his name. Yeah, and hosts means armies. When you go to the Hebrew, Sabaoth. So, you know, all these great wars, the Persian wars, the Greek wars, the Most High was down with all of that. Because according to Exodus 15 and 3, he is a man of war.
Right. That's why we're in his flesh, and the wars against the spirit. The Most High is with it.
Yep.
He likes that duality. He likes that battle. He's very theatrical. which theos in the Greek means God.
Go back to Daniel.
Yes.
All right, this is Daniel's chapter 8, and I'm gonna read verse 6 again. It says, "And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and
Choler just means wrath or anger.
And smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns."
And Alexander, he defeated the Persian Empire, which that was something that was in his mind as a little kid. Even his father Philip, the second of Macedon, you know what I'm saying? Which is where we get the book of Philippi from. It's named after him. You know, one thing I looked up about Alexander was what? And all these crackers, these so-called white people, you're Edomites in the Bible. One tendency you have is that you like to name shit after yourself. And that's how you have Alexandria, Egypt. And this dude Alexander actually named over 70 places after himself. Get that Psalms 49.
Psalms 49.
11.
Yeah. All right. This is Psalms chapter 49, verse 11. "Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names."
Yeah, now go to Genesis, the 4th chapter and the 16th verse, or the 26th verse, where it talks about Enoch. So the so-called nature of the so-called white man, all right, in the Bible name is Edom, his thought is to name houses and territories after himself. That way his name may live on in the earth, man.
This is Genesis 4 and 26. "And to Seth, to him also was there born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men..." Excuse me, select. 4 and 16. "And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch. And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch."
Look at that, man. He didn't name the son. He didn't name the city after his power or how he got it. He named it after his son. That's his son's name. He live on the earth, man. And you know that what? Cain, that same spirit is out of the so-called white man, man. All right. All the land the land of Israel is named after Israel, but really, Jerusalem. That's what it's. You know what I'm saying? You have in the land of Israel, you have each particular land, and it's not named after no. You know what I'm saying? Nobody really named it after themselves. I mean, yeah, you got Samaria, which is named after Shamar, but Shamar didn't call it after himself. You know, so it's different spirits. You know, so that spirit of Cain is in these crackers, man. That's dumb. Which key note is that was the first city in the Bible being mentioned of being built. You know what I'm saying? And what does Cain do? Name it after himself. You got Philippi. You know, you got the book of Philippians that was named after Philip. The church of Laodicea was actually named after Laodice, which was Antiochus III's wife. You know what I'm saying? So,
and even today, America,
Africa, Asia, Leo Scipio Asiaticus. This list goes on and on, man. You have like George Washington Avenue, these kind of things, you know.
Go back to Daniel. It says Daniel's 8 and 7, "And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken."
Yeah, so look at that, man. The Grecian Empire was, man, they damn near conquered more than the Persians did. And the Persians had a great empire, man. But at the peak, Alexander mysteriously died, man. Certain people say he was poisoned. Certain people said he drank unmixed wine. Those little things, man. All we know is the Most High killed him. 1 Samuel 2 and 6. That's who killed him. You want to know who killed Alexander the Great? His Heavenly Father. You know what I'm saying?
And also his rule was short too. He only ruled for, I think, 12 years.
Yeah, about 12 years. But he did a lot in 12 years, man.
This is 1 Samuel 2 and 6. "The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up."
Yeah, so Alexander, you had a particular time that you couldn't have passed, man. And that was the age of 33 when you dropped dead, man. that your kingdom may be divided and fulfill more prophecy.
This is verse 8. Wait, did I read that already? Yeah, I'll read it again though. It says, therefore the he-goat waxed very great.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And when he was strong,
oh no, you didn't.
I didn't finish it yet. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. For it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
All right, now these 4 notable ones, you have the Ptolemies, you have Antigonus, you have Ptolemy, Antigonus, Cassander, and Seleucus or Lacenaeus, however you see it. I'll say it like this: after he died, right, there was a war about 15 years. There was a war for about 15 years over his kingdom, okay? Because you had more than just 4 generals at the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Alexander had over 72 generals. But after the end of the Diadochi, right, Antigonus was wiped out. You know what I'm saying? He died at the Battle of Isum. And at the end of that, the 4 notable ones that survived that whole ordeal, the whole ordeal, was Cassander, Lacenaeus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. Okay, I'll say it like that. Those are the most 4 notable ones, because I don't want you to have the impression that as soon as he died, okay, you 4 guys. It wasn't like that. It was wars, man, for the kingdom of Alexander. So after that 15-year period, when the four gathered together to take down Antigonus, which was also one of Alexander's general, and his son, which I believe his son name was Dmitri.
It says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great.
What verse you at?
Verse 9.
And out of, go ahead.
It says, which waxed exceeding great.
It says out of one of them. All right, so who's that out of one? Seleucus is the first Nicanor, because he brought forth Antiochus' 4th Epiphanes, man. All right? That's who this scripture is talking about. The little horn.
It says, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land.
Right. He said he waxed towards the south, right? Which is towards Egypt. Okay? And of course, different particular lands, and the pleasant land, which is Jerusalem. This guy was rape, robbing, and plundering. It's actually something particular. We're going to bring it out in Daniel's 11. Antiochus IV, like the Antiochus line, always wanted to conquer Egypt. He's the only one that actually did that, man. Like, he actually not conquered it, but he went up there and took spoils, and he made Ptolemy a puppet king. And it's going to go into what he did in Jerusalem, man. Go ahead.
It says, and it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them.
Now, who are the stars? The stars of Israel. Did not Joseph say, I had a dream, I saw the 11 stars bowing at my feet, and the sun and the moon worshiping me, talking about his mother and father? So the children of Israel has always been likened unto stars. He tried upon the stars, man.
It says, yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away.
Yes. So this is where you have the abomination of desolation, man, which is Antiochus' 4th Epiphanes, because when he came back, you had something called Hellenization that was taking place, where Hellen just means Greek. So you had the Greek fashion was being pretty much forced upon the whole world. That's what Alexander wanted to do. Alexander wanted to form a one world government where everybody spoke Greek, followed Greek, kept the Greek custom, and he was going to have the capital be Babylon. That's where he died. Now, Antiochus and all his generals followed in this place in terms of Hellenizing, but one thing that pissed them off was the Jews, because we didn't have our gods, there was no carven image, there was no graven image of our power, you know, so they just kind of looked at us as backwards, right? Now, the Hellenization thing started popping off. Think about this. It's like how America goes around and Americanized, like, everywhere. Like, you might see certain people in the Middle East, like the women, some of them might still be trying to keep their customs of being fully womanized, right? Covered up. And then some might be half-assed where they'll have like the top of the hijab, but they'll wear jeans. You know what I'm saying? So you have people that go harder with this American shit than others. It was the same thing with this Hellenization thing. You have certain Jews that went hard with this shit, circumcising their skin, like putting foreskin back on and shit like that, man. It's a crazy-ass procedure. Being in the gymnos, practicing naked. Having Hellenized names. Jason, Menelaus, all right? Worshiping the Zeus Olympus or Jupiter, you know? So you had them going fucking hard with it. So when this abomination and desolation took place, Antiochus IV Epiphanes went hard to the point that he wanted people to offer pigs on the altar, man, and stop the daily sacrifices. No more lamb in the evening, no more lamb in the morning and evening sacrifices. All right. He had the priest in the goddamn gymnasiums, man. All right, having prostitutes in the temple. So he was the abomination that made it desolate, man.
It says.
Is this dude
behind us?
Is somebody? Oh no, I don't think so.
All right. No. It says, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Pardon me, where are you?
Verse 11. I'm gonna read it from the top. It says, yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the hosts, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Literally, man. Go ahead.
And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
Yeah, so that Hellenization shit was popping, man. You had a lot of jigs that was with that, man. All right. You actually, you had jigs calling themselves Antiochians.
It says, then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
Yeah, so that, when you add that up, you get about 6 years. But that was just, that's, no, that can't be, this dude just got in this car. You know how sometimes the Most High just say, like, you should have tribulation 10 days? It's like, this is similar, all right? So for about a period of time, Antiochus IV eventually died, and of course you had the Maccabean revolt, because what they tried to do was, they already Hellenized the shit out of Jerusalem, right? And what happened was, they was trying to go to the neighboring villages, and when they went to the land of Modin, which was governed by Mattathias, righteous anger came upon him, man, and he slew that motherfucker that was trying to offer pigs on the altar, man, and the Syrian guards that was there, man. So the Maccabees staged a revolt, and they were actually backed by the Romans. They were backed by the Spartans and the Romans. That's in the book of Maccabees. All right? They ultimately got independence, you know what I'm saying? The Hasmonean dynasty didn't last too long, but ultimately Antiochus IV got humbled. All right? And Jerusalem got their independence, which I believe that was the brother John Hyrcanus I.
Is that also when they dedicated the temple?
Yes.
The Feast of Dedication?
Exactly. Thwada, brother, I almost forgot that. When it was cleansed, Judas Maccabees defeated Nicanor, and that became a high holy day. All right? Because, we in the scriptures, in the law, it speaks about the Feast of Lights with the candlesticks. You know what I'm saying? So that was also, the tradition goes was they didn't have enough light. All right? This is the tradition. Or oral tradition. So the scholars say that they didn't have enough oil, the concentrated oil that's mentioned in the law that you need for the candlesticks. And what happened was they used what they had, and it still lasted 8 days, man. All right, but the Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication, the thing that Yahushua kept in St. John the 10th chapter, was the defeat of Nicanor by Judas Maccabees, and he made it the high holy day, which is the Feast of Dedication. They call Hanukkah today. So the water, brother, I forgot that point.
This is back in Daniel 8:15, and it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. Which
is an angel, all right? There's no account of the angels in the Bible looking like women, all right? Because I know Hollywood likes to put that shit. Nah, they're black men with beards. White woolly hair sometimes, or they might come in as young men, so-called black men, all right? Go ahead.
It says, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision.
Yeah, so, another angel told Gabriel, which Gabriel is an archangel, one of the Holy Seven, which that means Gabar Ya'ala. show this man understanding, which the Spirit of the Lord, we've been saying it. That's how you get revelations. The angels whisper in your ears. They minister onto you in your ears, in your mind while you sleep. You go back to a scripture again, and all of a sudden you get a whole new look to it. That's what you call chewing the cud. We're likened onto sheep. And how do sheep eat? They chew cud. Meaning what? When they grind the grass, they bring it down their stomach and they bring it back up and grind it down again to get more nutrients out of it. It's the same thing with these scriptures. You might read it once, get something out of it. Years later, you come back. Oh, wait a minute. Now it's twofold, threefold, fourfold. You know what I'm saying?
It says, verse 17. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face.
The angels have a very terrible look, very fierce countenance.
But he said unto me, Understand, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, and he touched me and set me upright.
Yeah, now you gotta understand, sleeping is a very spiritual thing. That's like your spirit's kind of in limbo when you sleep. You know what I'm saying? That's how come when the Most High speaks to men, he put them like in a deep sleep, man. All right, because your spirit, it's much easier to talk to the spirit. Hey, that's when you get your instructions.
It says, now as he was speaking with me, I read that, verse 19, and he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. The rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
It's Alexander.
Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
Yeah, what does it mean not in his power? Not in his heir. Because Alexander had two sons. Not just one, he had two. You had he had one by Roxanne, which when he died, that baby wasn't even born yet. And he had another one that was around 14 years old, Alexander V. Because Alexander the Great was also known as Alexander IV. He had a son named Alexander V, which Cassander killed. You know what I'm saying? For that, to have the power seat of Macedonia. So when it says not in his power means not in his heir. It also says the same thing in Daniel's 11th chapter.
It says verse 23, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
Antiochus.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall he destroy many.
Yeah, and he was known for flattering. That's how he got his power. Antiochus IV Epiphanes, his real name was Mithridates. I have to look at the pronunciation correctly, but it just means son of Mithra, right? Which was a Persian deity. Elamites, right? When he got the power, because his brother Seleucus IV Philopator died, we're going to get in more detail, Lord willing, when we do Daniel's 11. His son Demetrius should have reigned, but he was held hostage at Rome. Both of them were. The Romans allowed Mithridates, aka Antiochus, to go over there, and he came peaceably. He said, listen, I'm not coming here to take the throne. I'm just here to, keep peace until my, to the rightful heir, my nephew, comes out. Once he got, flattered the nobles of Syria and got some type of power, he said, fuck that. Changed his name to Antiochus Epiphanes, which means the illustrious one, and then kept the throne for himself, man. He said, fuck his nephew. Which, we, the Jews, all right, we call them Epimanes, which is the mad one. So, that was brothers back then cutting ass. Just like how we do now, you know what I'm saying? We do the wordplay on the words. So, bro, that you could already tell out. Because, certain scholars will say they called him the mad one, but if you look deep enough, it said that name was given to him by the Jews. So, that was us, brother, the wordplay.
Okay. It says, he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
What does it mean, broken without hand? He died of an illness. That's in the book of Maccabees. I'm gonna see if this precept is in the commentary. I mean, you could go ahead and go to it because he had that sickness. Unless you know it off top. Do you know it off top? Sure. You're in Daniel what chapter, brother?
8. Daniel 8 and
25.
Yep.
See, this guy has it.
Wait, actually, I think
Second
I do know where it's
Maccabees
at.
9 and 8.
Oh, 9 and 8. All right.
Salakia. It's actually First Maccabees. Second Maccabees 9 and 5.
All right. This is Second Maccabees chapter 9 verse 5.
And there's another one mentioned in Second Maccabees, First Maccabees 6 and 8. So
All right.
let's bring that out first, and then go to Second Maccabees 9.
All right. First Maccabees 6 and 8. This is First Maccabees 6 and 8. Now when the king heard these words, he was astonished and sore moved, whereupon he laid him down upon his bed and fell sick for grief, because it had not befallen him as he looked for.
Yeah, so he fell sick for grief. I'll go back to Second Maccabees 9, get more detail.
This is Second Maccabees 9 and 5. But the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, smote him with an incurable and invisible plague. For as soon as he had spoken these words, a pain of the bowels What's
some of the words that he spoke? He said he's gonna make Jerusalem a common burying place for the Jews, man. He was gonna come to fuck us up in his pride. And while that happened, the Most out of nowhere just boom, broke him without hands, fulfilling the prophecy. Go ahead.
It says a pain of the bowels that was remediless.
He should have had no cure.
Came upon him, and sore torments from the inner parts, and that most justly, for he had tormented other men's bowels with many and strange torments. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but still was filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews.
Still was talking shit, still wanted to, you know what I'm saying, bring hell upon us. Go ahead.
And commanding to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot, carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pain.
Yep. So, and I believe, read the first verse, 9 and 1.
All right, this is Second Maccabees 9 and 1. About that time came Antiochus with dishonor out of the country of Persia. For he had entered the city called Persepolis, and went about to rob the temple and to hold the city. Whereupon the multitude, running to defend themselves with their weapons, put them to flight. And so it happened that Antiochus, being put to flight of the inhabitants, returned with shame. Now when he came to Ecbatani, news was brought him what had happened to Nicanor and Timotheus. Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews.
What happened to Nicanor? Judas Maccabees beat him. Because what happened was he left Nicanor in Jerusalem to take care of the revolt of the Maccabees, and he said, "Listen, I'm gonna go to Persia and handle these Parthenians." And the secular history they call Parthenians, but he was defeated by both. And when he heard what happened with the Jews, he was pissed the fuck off. When you go to the history about this guy Antiochus IV, he loved to take his anger out on Jerusalem. Matter of fact, when he did that whole abomination that made the desolate thing, he went to go take Egypt on his third campaign. He wanted to take Alexandria, Egypt, right? And the Romans stopped him. That's that famous saying, draw a line in the sand, because you had a guy by the name of Papalinius, right? A Roman soldier, right? Antiochus had this large army to go take Alexandria, Egypt, right? But Ptolemy had a league with the Romans, and the Roman general, a senator, he came with a small army. But Antiochus was smart enough. Look, if I touch this army right here, pretty much declaring war on Rome. So he's going to Alexandria, and the guy that he was actually cool with Antiochus. Antiochus goes to salute him up, put his right hand out to kiss him, and he didn't put his right hand out. It was all business. He told him, "Listen, you cross this line right here, it's a war. You're taking a declaration, an act of declaration against the Roman Empire, right?" So Antiochus was like, so he said, are you going to cross this line? Antiochus was like, let me go speak with my governors and my counselors to see this decision, right? He walks up to him. He draws a circle around him. Let me make myself clear. If you step out this circle, it's an act of war against Rome right now. What are you going to do? And that shit fucked with his head. You know what I'm saying? He didn't. He couldn't fuck with Rome. So that's when he went back. He had his army already ready. He said, fuck it, I'm going to take all my anger out on these Jews, man. You know? And that's when he, of course, violated the temple and became known as the abomination that made it desolate, man. Yeah.
Let me get a precept on that.
There was still more Maccabees in 9th chapter.
Okay. Maccabees 9 and 4. Then swelling with anger, he thought to avenge upon the Jews.
No. Yes, exactly. See? He thought to avenge himself upon the Jews. Because he didn't defeat the Parthians, all right, which were the Persians, and he couldn't fuck with his general Nicanor lost to Judas Maccabees. So he was like, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna cause all types of wreck, man. Fuck that.
It said, the disgrace done unto him by those that made him flee. Therefore commanded he his chariot men to drive without season and to dispatch the journey, the judgment of the Most High now following him. For he has spoken proudly in this sort that he would come to Jerusalem and make it a common burying place of the Jews.
See that shit, man? Well, this motherfucker hated the shit out of Jake, boy. He'd love to take his anger out on Jake, boy. But you know what? The Most High, Daniel's that particular chapter in the 25th verse, that to have been fulfilled, man. That demon, all right? That fucking mad crazy, because he really was a crazy motherfucker. He was just doing weird shit, man. When you read about this dude. Man, if this brother read about him, some of the crazy shit he did, man. Then you brothers can read about it on your own, man. He earned that title of the Mad One. What?
Keep reading there.
Jump down to verse 7. Because I think you stopped around 6.
Oh, wait, I didn't even finish this one.
Okay.
I don't think so. It says, for he has spoken proudly in this sort that he would come to Jerusalem to make it a common burying place of the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said jump down to 7.
Mm-hmm.
It said, howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but still was filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, commanding to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot, carried violently, so that having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pained.
Look at that, man. See that shit? And you know one thing about Antiochus, when he first came into power? Because we're going to get into it, Lord willing, the Syrian wars, the battles between the king of the south, the Ptolemies, and the Antiochus going back and forth. When he first came in, Jake was loving this dude. Because they was tired of being on the Ptolemy, man. They didn't want to be on the Ptolemy because Ptolemy was Hellenizing them. You know what I'm saying? They were both was pushing Hellenization, but Antiochus came in. He came in all peaceably. He said they was like, we'd rather be under the Syrians than the Egyptians, right? But when they saw the true colors of Antiochus, they was fucking calling back for the Egyptians, man. Which you had Jake in Ptolemy's army. When you read about Alexandria, Egypt, right? Because there was a couple different places that were Hellenized. When you read about Alexandria, Egypt, at first it wasn't that popular. Fast forward 75 years, it was one of the most well-known Hellenized cities. I mean, this city was popping, right? 1/3 of the population were Israelites, Jews. That's how come Ptolemy, he had that very famous library, the Library of Alexandria, which had over 500,000 manuscripts. They said he translated the laws of Moses into Greek, which is where you get the Septuagint from. So you had Jake, man. Jake was every damn way, man, influencing every particular society. And when we get into it, Lord willing, Wednesday, Jake spared Ptolemy's life. It was a Jew in his army that spared Ptolemy. Ptolemy could have dropped dead. But we're gonna get more in detail, Lord willing, Wednesday. Save that, for another time.
Go back to Daniel?
Yeah, no, go back to finish. I want you to read verse 9.
All right. 8 and 9, or just skip to 9?
8 and 9. Finish up 8 and 9.
All right. This is verse 8, 2 Maccabees 9 and 8. And thus he that a little before thought he might command the waves of the sea, so proud he was beyond the condition of men, and weigh the high mountains in a balance, was now cast on the ground, and carried in a horse litter, shewing forth unto all the manifest power of the Most High.
Yep, see that? Before pride goeth destruction. All right, so the Most High had this guy being dragged around. Go ahead.
So that the worms rose up out of the body of this wicked man, and whilst
Parasites.
he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army.
Yeah, man, so this motherfucker stink, man. Good.
And the man that thought a little afore he could reach to the stars of heaven, no man could endure to carry for his intolerable stink.
Look at that, man. See that? So the Most High, I like how I believe it was Jason who did this. I like how he wrote that, the stars of heaven, because he's trying to reach the stars of heaven, as in, lift himself up, but also reach Jerusalem, which is the stars of heaven. So it's kind of I like how he wrote that. But yeah, so the Most High humbled this guy. If the brother reads on more, which you're not going to, this dude finally humbled himself. To my friends, the Jews. He really the Most High humbled the shit out of that dude, man. Go back to Daniel. Finish up. We got about 2 more verses.
This is Daniel's chapter 8, verse 26. And the vision of the evening and the morning, which was told, is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days.
So that was about, what, over like 300 days? Or when you see how the scripture say, for it is many days? Somebody think actual days and shit. Nah, man, that was like over 350 years before that thing would happen, man. You know what I'm saying? Roughly 300 years. It's like 200 when Alexander. Yeah, so a little in between 200 and 300 years before the prophecy was fulfilled, man.
It says, afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.
Yeah, so he didn't get it, but eventually, the prophecies came to pass, and this particular breakdown is even common amongst Edomites. They understand how to go into it, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But we being a prophet, starting with the apostles and those on down, we also have to go into the secular history. We have to know these things. We're also teachers. I wanted to make a point too. I would say like a few days. Another thing, like how Jay today be like, I ain't see you in a minute. A minute could be a week, months, years. I ain't see him in a minute. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same. The Lord kind of does that with days. Showing that we're the children of Israel. You have any precepts on?
No, but one more point too. Like people say, "Oh, give me a second."
Yeah.
Same thing, but that it doesn't literally mean a second.
Shit, man. Jake be on his own time. He had 2 minutes, and fucking 30 minutes later, he's just coming out. So, the Most High does his own thing. You know what I'm saying? We on his time, not ours. So with that, we're gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Quadash. Double honor to the apostles. That was a great meal, so which you well. And salutations to a hopeful elect out there. You brothers that sincerely do this thing in truth and sincerity. Shalom.
Shalom.